Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Upticks. This is episode 188, Perfect Putt with Jared Doerfler. Jared, thank you for joining me on the show.
Jake, how we doing? Happy to be here.
You know, the fascinating world of Twitter is how we met, which is, if you would have told me I would have been having a podcast with somebody that I met on Twitter a decade ago, I would have laughed at you.
Twitter is an interesting spot. There's a lot of negativity, but you make it your own. I've actually had nothing but a lot of fun on Twitter, met a lot of really cool people. Of course, there's the 5 or 10% of people out there that aren't very much fun, sort of grumpy, but it's been a lot of fun meeting people, and you're one of those people. So it's been cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Jared. And like I said, so we connected on Twitter, and I was fascinated. You write an amazing business golf blog, and that's how I was scrolling through, and somehow your blog popped up, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm glad somebody's doing that. So the reason I'm having you on Upticks today is that many of my clients are entering a point in their career or retirement where they're looking for new passion projects. And I know this is kind of something that you're doing as a passion project. So I wanted to kind of hopefully spark some ideas in our audience about, like, look, if you have something that you enjoy talking about or writing about, then you can go out and do it. So I wanted, you inspired me because I think it's really cool, and hopefully we can bring that inspiration to our clients. So before we go into kind of into more detail into what you're offering out there, why don't you just please share a little bit of your background? Like, where do you live? What do you do full time? And maybe talk about Perfect Putt a little bit.
Yeah, Jake. So I live in North Iowa, Mason City, Iowa, a town of about 25,000 people. It's a small rural town. I was born in Kansas City, lived there for a couple of years in the Olathe region. And my wife and I actually lived downtown Kansas City for a number of years. We moved back to Iowa just 5 years ago. So strong ties to KC, love everything KC. Right now, I'm the vice president of sales for a manufacturing company. Manufacturing is really strong in Iowa. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a good ride. I've been at my current organization for about 5 years. And so what I do on the side is I've always got to be tinkering, Jake. It's how I learn. And so I started a weekly newsletter called Perfect Putt in August. And what we do every week is we send out a 600 to 800 word newsletter. Takes about 5 minutes to read, that discusses the business side of golf. There's a lot of content creators in golf. They all do a phenomenal job. I actually read quite a bit of them. I think there was a little bit of a space for the business side and discussing the business side of golf. I mean, golf's a massive industry, and people aren't discussing that solely. So I thought there was an area there. Started as a hobby. It's been a lot of fun. We've got about 1,600 plus readers right now, which blows me away. I was shocked when my wife signed up, to be honest with you. So I finally got my mom to sign up too, which took about 6 months. So it's a lot of fun. Again, it's something that's free. It's quick read, and it's guaranteed to learn something if you're interested in the golf industry.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jared. Thank you so much. Now, I'm curious. So what's your why behind it? Because I know you've got a family, you've got a career. So why did you start this Perfect Putt newsletter? Other than the gap in the industry, I acknowledge that.
Right. No, it's a great question, Jake. And, my dad kind of asked me the same thing. He goes, you're always tinkering with something, and, I have to do it. But why is because I just completed my MBA, which is somewhat of a miracle. And anyway, one of my last classes was entrepreneurship and innovation last spring. And the instructor really recommended and suggested that everyone in the class just write. Get online and write. You'll learn. You'll meet people. You'll learn about what you're writing about. You'll learn how to get better. And writing is one of the most effective things you can do as a professional, right? We send emails every day. We need to send memos. We need to communicate with our team effectively. So writing is very healthy. And so a good buddy of mine and I said, hey, look, let's just do this. Let's write a newsletter and and see what happens. And we started kind of as a contest. He had one and I had one, and that's really the premise of it. And I will say, that instructor was one of the better instructors I had in the program. And it really has taught me so much. It's amazing the people that are so much smarter than me that will send me emails back every week suggesting that I look at something a little bit differently. And I think that's really good and that's healthy. And I've got a number of CFOs that read it, and they'll send me analysis of my writing when I break down public companies, because you know what, Jake, I don't know a whole lot about finance, right? It's definitely a weak suit of mine, but they break it down and they provide recommendations for me, and that makes me get better, right? It helps me learn. And so that's really why I do it. I have a huge passion for golf, obviously, and I have a huge passion for business. And so I think it's really healthy to have hobbies. I think it's really healthy to really make sure they're not totally invested in one single thing. Kind of like looking at finance, Jake, from your side, right? I don't know if it would be the smartest thing in the world to invest all of your net worth in one stock, right?
Right.
And so it's like hobbies are good. And so it's really healthy for me to do this. And I've really enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, because you're so deep now into the golf, so we're talking about around 7 months you've been writing this weekly newsletter. So what's something that our audience, big part of our clients are golfers or enjoy golf. So what's something out there in the golf industry that you think that you've kind of discovered or uncovered that you think they should know?
Yeah, I think there's two things. Well, I think everyone kind of has a basic understanding that golf is growing, right? But what I'm excited about is there's 800,000 new golfers in the US over the last 2 years, right? The largest growing segments are women and juniors, right? And those are two of the most important segments for the sustainability of the game. And then if you look at golf rounds, they were up in 2021, 20% over 2019. So, that's, to put that in some context, Jake, that's 90 million rounds and more in the US. So golf is very healthy. So that's one thing. A second thing is golf entertainment. If you look at all the golf entertainment, all the investment into golf entertainment, there's obviously a huge demand. You look at Topgolf and then Topgolf's competitors, Drive Shack, Big Shots, and then you look at some of the newer companies coming online, the Putteries, Putt Shacks, Pop Strokes. So there's a lot of different golf entertainment going on. And then you look at all the simulators going in around the country. I mean, every single rural area in this country seems to have a simulator going in every single week. If you just go on Google and type in golf simulators and go to news, you'll find, rural North Dakota, rural Minnesota, or rural, Massachusetts, wherever. You're going to find a new simulator going in every week. So the demand for golf is really high.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable, that growth. And do you attribute that growth, you think, to COVID? Because it was a sport we could actually play during the pandemic because you're outside.
Yeah, 100%. Before COVID started, there was quite a few golf media brands that attributed to kind of that stronger growth segment. If you look at No Lane Up or Foreplay, which are two of the stronger media brands in golf and content creation, they were kind of pre-COVID, but their business helped accelerate new people to get into golf. And COVID was certainly huge for the industry. There's no question about it.
Yeah. So I think, again, I can't reiterate this enough. I admire what you do as far as you have a full-time career and you launch this newsletter. So what are maybe, 2 or 3 pieces of advice you can give our listeners when they're looking to launch because I think a lot of people will get fired up by this episode, but they're also going to say, well, I'm not a good writer, or I'm not on Twitter, or I don't. So maybe, can you give maybe 2 or 3 tips of how you got, because it was good that you had accountability with your friend. And I think when you and I spoke, your friend doesn't do it anymore, right? It wasn't for him, right?
Correct. Yep.
But maybe what pieces of advice, if someone wanted to start something like this, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this provides some background. I had 68 Twitter followers when I started this, and I've had Twitter since 2018. But I haven't really. It's a really good way for me to check the news, right? Mm-hmm. I'm always invested in the news, whether it's the finance and investing world, politics, whatever it may be. I want to know what's going on out there, right? And so that's what I use Twitter for. And I started with 68 followers, and I think I've have a little over 6,000 now. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot, right? It's a vanity metric, but what it shows is that writing can grow brands. It can grow your audience. If there was 3 things that I really would want to, kind of look at or give advice, which, Jake, again, I'm not sure that I'm maybe the best person for this.
Hey.
You know, I had to trick my wife into marrying me, and I honestly had to trick University of Iowa into giving me the MBA. So, but there are three things that I like to talk about. Is that one, in anything, I think you want to surround yourself with good people, right? Kind of like you said earlier with accountability partner, something like that. Surround yourself with good people. Make sure that you're not the smartest person in the room, and make sure that you're going to learn from somebody, right? The other thing is really, and this applies to this newsletter more than anything, is consistency wins, right? Being consistent wins, and there is no get rich quick scheme and really anything in life unless you hit the lottery, which I don't know if it's a good practice anyway. But you know, it's kind of like investing a little bit. You know, to build wealth over time, you need to invest on a monthly basis, right? It gets your dollar cost averaging, and it just consistently you're buying at the right spots. Here, you know, it's the same thing with writing. You have to build that writing muscle where it becomes automatic, and you're just doing it over the weekend, every weekend, whether you're on vacation. I had COVID, and I was actually banged up from COVID pretty good. And I wrote 2 newsletters with it. I didn't even know what I was writing. My brain was so messed up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just building that muscle there with consistency. And that applies to everything really in life. If you want to get in better shape, you better build better habits with consistency. And I'll be the first one to admit, I am, I think, okay with consistency, but it's something that I can get much better in other parts of my life. And then another one kind of is like, when you're trying to grow something, Jake, or when you're just anything in life, you have to have perspective, right? And you have to have perspective because life can always be better, and you know, life can always be worse. But on your bad days, I guarantee that there's probably millions or maybe even billions of people that want to be in your shoes.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the 3 things that I would provide that kind of translate to many different sectors or industries.
That's really good. Yeah, thank you. So you surround yourself with good people, whether that's accountability or you're learning from other writers or newsletters. And then so consistency. So because again, you're busy. So do you carve out time each week to write? Do you like Fridays from 2 to 3 is when I'm writing, and I'm not, or 2 to 4, I don't know how long, but.
Yep. So I try to write early morning before everyone's awake in the house. I can get everything done in about an hour and a half if I'm really busting through it, but I have to have everything done before that. And so that's, hey, what topic are we going to write about? And that actually is more work than writing it, because you have to learn about what you're writing about for that week. And there's a lot of reading that goes into that, or maybe even listen to podcasts or watching some YouTube videos to learn. So, you know, all in all, it's like, you know, 5-hour deal probably for the week. And then, you know, that's one thing is a newsletter. And then I actively write on Twitter. And that's really my funnel from a marketing standpoint of getting new readers, is sharing different stories and different entrepreneurial adventures in golf. And that's how I get new readers. And that's how I grow my following base, is by writing on Twitter. So that's probably another couple hours a week that I really do that. I try to get up early in the morning on whether it's a weekday or a Saturday morning. I found Saturday morning is typically the best, right?
Yeah.
And there's one thing I learned, Jake, about writing. It's that find your sacred hour, right? And that means that you have no distractions. Saturday morning, all my friends are sleeping still, right? They're not going to text me about sports. No sports are on, so I can't watch and lose my money betting. And then my wife and my daughter are still sleeping. So that's a really good time for me and my sacred hour to write.
Got it. And through all this research, has anything really surprised you about golf? I know you played golf in college, and so you're very familiar with the game, but since you've read and watched and learned a lot, has anything been like, wow, I had no idea, or is it a lot? Is there a lot of different things?
I am easily like surprised, but not easily shocked, if that makes sense. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but I think a lot has surprised me about the industry. I mean, again, I've already talked about it once, but golf entertainment is such a huge segment of the market, and how much money is being dumped in there. I mean, if you look at Rory McIlroy, and he's got a venture capital firm called Symphony Ventures, where he's made, you know, numerous investments, and he has invested $10 million into puttery. And, you know, he gets a 10% equity stake through every single build or venue through the end of 2023. Like that actually is pretty fascinating to me, right?
They're opening one of those in Kansas City. Do you know that?
Correct. They are. Yeah. It's on their priority market. Yeah.
And the Plaza the Plaza is the place in Kansas City, probably one of the most expensive real estate places in Kansas City. So have you been to one of these putteries or done much research on them?
I haven't. They only have 2 open right now. So they just opened one in the north suburb of Dallas, and it's called the Colony. and that was in September, and they opened one in Charlotte in, I believe, December. Now, they have aggressive growth plans, right? They want to have 50 locations, and I don't know off the top of my head what the development cost is for each of these locations, but it's not insignificant. I think they'll be putting hundreds of millions of dollars into this venture. And so, I mean, it's really surprising from a golf entertainment standpoint. I think it's, Top Golf being acquired in an all stock deal from Callaway was pretty cool. No, nothing that's really surprised me. I think, one of the things that, Jake, I guess one of the things that maybe stands out the most is that there's only really 3 public golf companies, which is crazy to me still to wrap my head around. You have Callaway, Acushnet, and then you have Drive Shack. Vista Outdoor owns Bushnell, and they're a conglomerate, they're a tiny little piece, right? Strixon's public in Japan, but there's only 3 U.S. listed public. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and so that's the thing that kind of surprised me, I think, out of this whole deal.
Yeah, I actually, being a stock guy, I really didn't know that. I mean, we don't really dabble directly in the golf industry. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should after learning all this, but I mean, that's but I know Acushnet, like a lot of brands are under, right? Acushnet, like, so, yep. But still, that's crazy. You would think with that large of an industry that there would be more. That's really fascinating. Oh, good. And then you talked about perspective. So how do you keep perspective?
It's one of those things where it's actually really difficult to do. It's almost a learned behavior. And, I think Ed Cooley, who's the coach at Providence, the basketball team there, I was watching something the other day, he had a great comment about perspective and not taking anything for granted. So I'll steal it, but I definitely give him credit because it's not mine. I don't own this, but he was talking about how they got beat really bad by Creighton, and they got beat by like 30 points in the Big East tournament. And he said to his players, on your worst day, people dream of having your worst day. They dream of being a Division I athlete, dream of being a Division I basketball player. And he said, that's my worst day of the job, is that we get beat by 30, but yet people dream to be in my shoes. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was a really good and thoughtful thing to say from a perspective standpoint. Now, I've been kind of coming to head with this perspective thing over the last couple of months, because we've had to give ourselves a lot of perspective the last 2 years, haven't we, with everything that's going on in the world. And I think almost too much perspective can be a little bit dangerous as well, because then you might be complacent for I won't say losing, but mediocrity, right? Mm-hmm. And perspective's great. Also, make sure to have that winning mentality. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's really good. And by the way, I'm glad you're recovered from COVID. It's obviously been a scary couple of years for everybody.
Yeah.
So like I said, I know you played golf growing up. Do you have a favorite golf memory?
I certainly do. Okay. So I played golf at Northern Iowa. And Jake, so I think your wife is a KU grad, right?
She is. Yep.
Okay. So, and if you have any KU listeners, I don't know, they sure. Probably won't remember this as much as, a you and I listener, but in 2010, we were playing at a golf tournament in Phoenix, and it was the last day. So it's only an 18-hole day, and KU was actually playing in that golf tournament as well, their men's team. And KU was playing UNI in March Madness that afternoon in basketball.
Yeah.
And the KU golfers got a little excited with the UNI golfers on the putting green, which was a lot of fun, by the way.
Right.
And I would too, because they were one of the best programs in the country. They have been for decades. And so, we always remember that and talk about that. Anyway, we were driving. We didn't even stop to watch the game. We were driving and listened to on the satellite radio. We had two buses going, and shirts were out the window, and a lot of hooting and hollering going. And so, although it may not have been golf, that was with my best friends and my teammates, which I won't change anything for the world there. And to share that experience with them was a lot of fun. And parlaying that a little bit, Jake, is I have no business or had no business being a Division I golfer. I'm really not that talented, but one thing I did do is I worked my tail off to achieve my goal. And so those things together, they wouldn't have happened without each other. And, I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to become a Division I golfer, and not because you can necessarily say it or it sounds cool. It's because it's really the highest level of competition for men's collegiate golf. Mm-hmm. And I was able to set goals and to attain that goal. I think that was really neat for me to go through that process.
Yeah, you should be very proud of that. And I forgot about that one. Stung. That one. Yeah. That was a good. Do you remember what seed you guys were?
I think it was an 8 or 9. I believe 8 or 9. Yeah.
That one stung. I remember. I was like, because they were supposed to, KU was supposed to roll over, right? Northern Iowa
Yeah.
that year. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Do you have now as golfers? I think we're so hard on ourselves as just golfers are always beating themselves up. Do you have like a least favorite memory?
I do have I do have a least favorite memory, although it's not really like what you'd think it would be. But the second to last tournament of my career was in Arkansas State, which is Jonesboro. And Jonesboro is not an easy place to get to if you've ever been there. And my dad flew in to come watch, and there was rain delays and the weather wasn't great. But ultimately that wasn't to blame. But I just played really, really bad. I just played terrible. That moment, I knew my career was over. And that was, it was kind of interesting because we had conference tournament 2 weeks down the road, but I just knew that it was over. There was no way I could get my game back in 2 weeks, right? To extend the career after conference, which is regionals, which seemed there's no way of that happening. So I just knew it was over, and that was kind of an emotional experience for my dad and me. But that was kind of one of the worst memories when something's over. It's weird that it happened then and not at conference. But it did. And so that was one of the worst memories there. But also I was thankful that, my old man who, like I said, Jonesboro is not an easy place to go. He did support. My parents did a great job of supporting me in college, and they came to as many events as they could have. And it was just kind of just an emotional deal there.
Yeah, I'd argue though that probably allowed you to be the man that you are today. That's when we get character, right? When we have those tough moments. So that's good. I know you're in Iowa. Is that your most favorite place to live, or if you had a dream place to live or play golf? Do you have any ideas there?
Yeah, so I do. Okay. I was in sales and when I was in Kansas City, and by the way, so I'm not answering your question directly yet, but I'll get there in a second. And I love Iowa, right? The people of Iowa are great. I love Kansas. The people in Kansas, I don't think you're going to find better people on this earth than rural Kansas. I think Kansans are some of the nicest people. They are the nicest people around. I would argue with that until I go to my grave someday. But I am somebody that I love to ski. I'm very, very average. I'm not very good, but I love to ski and I love to get outdoors. And so if I could live anywhere, it would probably be Jackson, Wyoming. I think Jackson is amazing. Wyoming is one of the most underrated states, I think, out there. You have Grand Teton National Park, you have Yellowstone, you have numerous different mountain ranges, and not actually that bad at golf courses. Now, I would assume, I never played golf in Wyoming, I would assume that they're relatively expensive to play out in Jackson. I mean, Jackson's not the cheapest place in the world, but I love Jackson. It's an awesome place.
Yeah, I've never been to Wyoming, believe it or not. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, get out there.
What about do you have a favorite writer?
So yeah, I've got there's a few writers that I certainly follow. So I'm not sure if any of these are familiar with you, but Ryan French with the Fire Pit Collective, A Case of the Mondays is kind of what his Twitter handle is, Monday Q Info. And what I like about Ryan, he's super genuine and super authentic, right? And one of the running jokes with him is that his grammar's not great. He doesn't care. Like, he owns it, right? I think to be successful in life, you have to be genuine and authentic. Don't be somebody that you're not, right?
Yeah,
so I really enjoy his writing. I also love the stories that he tells. They're phenomenal stories of inspiration, perseverance, and grit, which I see a lot myself. These people are doing it much better than I did, but I feel like I had a small sliver of that. And then I look at Jeff Shackelford, who has been in the industry for a long time, and he does a great job of just breaking down current events and a few other various items. And then outside golf, I really like Sahil Bloom, which he's blown up on Twitter in the last year. So he's become very popular. He's even on CNBC, I see now every now and then as a guest. But he is more he's a Stanford grad, and he's kind of more I look at for, I guess, writing advice or entrepreneurial advice, or maybe even he tests your curiosity a little bit, makes you think. So that's kind of outside the golf world. The first two are definitely in, though.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jared. And to wrap up our show, we're running out of time here. Do you have a favorite motto, or whether that be for life or business? And you kind of rolled some good ones out, but do you have a favorite?
It's so cliche, but it's true, though. I mean, You just get up every day and try to have a good attitude and good effort. You're allowed to have bad days. Let's just say it, right? It's okay to have a bad day, right? But when you have that bad day, make sure you try to plug in some perspective. But just try to have a good attitude and good effort as you can. We really shouldn't take life for granted. A lot of people would love to be in our shoes, and we need to take advantage of that, right? We have this opportunity to take advantage of the opportunities we've been given. So come whatever you're doing, have a good attitude and good effort. Don't care about the result. I know that sounds silly. Have a good attitude, good effort. Don't care about the result.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to throw out there?
No, Jake, I really appreciate you having me on. I thank you a lot. It's been fun.
Yeah, and thank you. And again, if you're watching or listening to this, the name of the newsletter is Perfect Putt.
It is. Yep.
Perfect. So it's perfect. So it's a great newsletter. It's free to sign up. You deliver it every Monday, right? Monday mornings is when it comes out.
I'm a little superstitious. Every Monday at 7:47 Central Time is when it gets sent out. So
nice. Well, thank you again, Jared. Hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy. Have a great week, and thank you for joining us.
All right, Jake. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.